Hello and welcome to another exciting section on Concept First to Mastery channel. In this section, we'll be looking at Introduction to HTML5. If you are new to all these, you don't want to miss out on the exciting section we had in our first section, where we looked at the system specification that you will need to actually ensure that you are well set for the task ahead. Also, we looked at what web development is all about in general. And also, we looked at how the web work. You don't want to miss out on all that before going into this particular section. I will leave the link in the description below. Do make sure that you watch that. And in this section, like I already mentioned, we'll be looking at Introduction to HTML5. And it promises to be an exciting one. So just follow me, and it's going to be hands-on too, because we are going to have a lot of practice section. All right. So intro. So as a way of introducing this, HTML, which simply means hypertext markup language, right, is a standard markup language used to create and design documents on the web. So there are other markup languages, but when it comes to the web, HTML, right, is the most popular. It forms the backbone of the web document and provides a structured way to define elements on a page, right? So it's very important that we get this right. And let me just mention that HTML is not a programming language. As we see, it is a markup language that is actually used to give semantic meaning to elements on the page. So we'll see more and more on that. So just to give us an overview of HTML itself, right? We have different versions of HTML. The most up-to-date is the HTML5, which is what we'll be looking at. Every new version is an upgrade of the older version. Comes with something that enhances the previous version, right? HTML5 will be my focus here. HTML5 was introduced October 2014, and it brought a significant overhaul with new elements, attributes, and APIs. We are going to be seeing all these elements. We are going to be seeing the attributes and some of the APIs that we have available in HTML5, right? So it focused on improving multimedia support, including native audio and video. It introduced the concept of semantic elements for better document structure. So I will also delve a little into that, some semantic elements. It enhanced support for mobile devices and responsive design. So we'll see some of these elements that actually provide support for mobile devices and responsive design. So basically, that's an overview of what we have in HTML5, right? That makes it different from HTML4, HTML3, and HTML1. So the objective of this particular section is that you should understand the basic structure, right, and syntax of HTML. I cannot overemphasize this, right? Getting these basics right is very, very critical. As simple as it seems, right? You want to be sure that you really understand it, right? The syntax and all that. Once you know that, it's a building block. Every other thing will come in. Every other thing will come in. But the building block, you don't want to joke with it. HTML structure. Oh, okay. Before I go into HTML structure and the likes, I think it's better that I set up a project folder, right? A practice project folder from where we can actually practice things and move on from there. So what I will ask you to do is you go to your desktop, right? Go to your desktop, right click and come to new. So here you will see new folder. Just create a folder and you can name it HTML basics. So it's just going to be the folder that we use for practice, right? So the thing is that anytime you are working on a project, each project we have, it will be packaged in a folder where every file, right, and every image, every resource that will be used in that project will go into that particular folder. This is so that when it comes to deployment, because your project is not going to live on your machine eventually, right? It's going to be hosted somewhere, right? So you want to be sure that you have everything, that every file, every resource that goes into that project, you want to be sure that everything is packaged in a folder. So inside this HTML basics, there is nothing here, right? It's just clean. So what I will do is that I'm going to open my VS Code. We have shown you how to install VS Code in the first section. You can just type VS Code here, right? VS Code, and you will see this with this icon. You click on it. So once you have that, it will open. And of course, if you have any project on before, it's going to open it for you, right? But what I want to do is I want to bring in a new the new project we just created. So I can just drag this. So I can just drag this in. Just drag this. Right click now, or left click on this, hold it down and drag it. So you can drag it in this way and just place it here, right? So if you want to go from here to start looking for the file, you can also do that. You can also do that, but I will just do it from here. So you can go through here, open folder, right? And just go to where the folder is and open it. So here we have HTML basics, but you can see that there is nothing in here, right? There's nothing in here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create a root file, right? And we are dealing with HTML. So since we are dealing with HTML, the file is going to end with .html, right? Don't forget that .html extension. So here I will just say index.html. So I'm using index because the browser is going to be looking for this as the default file, the root file, right? That will be picked as your own page, right? So index.html, you just click that and that's it. So here we can now start writing our code, right? So we have this structure on ground now. Then we can go to what I want to explain before coming to what I want to do here, right? So so HTML structure. So let's just have an understanding of what the structure is all about. So HTML uses a tree-like structure where elements are nested inside each other. So we all know we all know trees, right? We have the roots, we have the trunk and the branches and all that. So at the roots of every HTML document is the HTML element itself. So I'm going to show you that eventually, right? So it branches out into different sections. We have the head, the body, and the likes. So each HTML document consists of two main parts: the head and the body, right? The head and the body. Let me just show you what I mean here. So you can see here the DOM tree, document object model tree. So you have the HTML here, which is the root element, right? I will show you what makes an element, right? HTML tag here. Then we have the head tag, we have the body tag, right? And down like that. So you can see that this is in form of a tree, right? Where we have the roots, we have the branches, and the branches off like that. And all these are elements. All these are elements, right? Displayed within in a document, right? On a page. So without wasting much time, let's see what I mean here. The first thing you want to do when you want to write HTML5 document, I'm saying 5, right? Because the browser will interpret that, right? The browser will interpret whatever you place here. So if it's not HTML5, you won't have it, right? So you can see I have doc type HTML, doc type HTML. So the less than sign, the exclamation mark the doc type, and HTML. So this is what when the browser sees this, right? When the browser sees this, it's going to interpret it as HTML5 document. So take note of that, HTML5 document. I've already made it clear that we have different versions, right? So the browser is going to interpret this as HTML5 document. So just like I've mentioned in the structure that I showed you, it's a tree-like structure. The HTML is in the form of a tree, right? We have the root element, which is HTML. So you see this emit abbreviation. So as I'm explaining this, I'm also going to be showing you some shortcuts, but let me do this first so that we don't jump. So HTML, right? So you're just going to say HTML. So this is how you write an element. This is a complete element now. The element includes the opening tag and the closing tag. So I will still talk about the anatomy, right? So, but this is just to give you the structure. So you have the HTML element, which is the root element, right? It's the root element. So inside this HTML element, it now branch off into another two branches, right? We have the head elements, right? We have the head elements. We have the head elements, and we also have the body. We have the body, right? You can see that the head element, the head is having the opening side of it and the closing side of it, right? The closing side of it. The body also is having the opening side of it and the closing side of things. So now the question is, what is the head for? Right? And what is the body for? It's very, very important that you get that clear. Now we know the structure. Oh, the root element is the HTML element, two branches, the head and the body. What is the head for? What is the body for? Right? So the head is actually to give extra information for the browser and for search engine, right? It's not, whatever you place in the head section is not going to show in the browser, right? In the body of the browser, you're not going to see it. So whatever you place here is to influence the behavior and appearance of the document, right? It influences the behavior and appearance of the document, but that information is used by the browser itself. So we are going to look at the different elements that are possible, right? That you can have in the X section and the different elements that you can have in the body section. So when you know this, you're already having your document, writing of HTML document structured, and you are getting it right already, right? And you're not just typing without knowing what you are doing. You already know that the head information is for the browser and for search engine, right? Or let me see SEO now, search engine optimization. Then the body section is what you want the user to see, the images, the tables, the description, and every other thing that you might want the user to interact with goes into the body. So in the head section, we have let's talk about the first important element there, which is the title. So it is expected that every document be titled, right? Every document is expected to be titled. So let's say this one is introduction to HTML5. So this is going to be the title of this document. And how you know is, okay, let's see what we have. Now that we have this page, let's see what we have. Let's see what we have. Just before I go on to opening the file with the live server, if you have gained value, and I will encourage you to subscribe, turn on your notification, and also give some likes. And I will also, you can drop some comments. I would also like to hear from you. What I want to do is I want to launch this, right? So that we can see it in the browser. For me, if I right click here, I'm going to see open with live server, right? For you, if you just installed VS Code, you might not have that. So what you do is you come to extensions. So this is where you have different plugins, right, that you can install and use while you are developing. So here you can click on this and just search for search for live server, right? So this one, launch a development local live server. So I have already installed it. For you, you will see install, you will need to install it. So once you have installed it, you will be able to come back to this file and right click and you say open with live server, and that will happen in your default. It will open in your default browser. So this is the host, right, which is 127.0.0.1. That's representing local development host, right? And this is the ports. So it's listening on 5500, right? So you will notice that there is nothing on here for us to see, right? There's nothing for us to see. That is because we have nothing in the body section. There is nothing in the body section. But you will notice that we have the title of the document, Introduction to HTML5. So that is what this document, this title element is actually used for, right? So we have other ones here that I want to also talk about quickly. We have the, let's say, okay, let me go to the major ones first before I go to the minor ones. We have the link, right? The link elements. So the link element is actually self-closing. So we'll still talk about self-closing, right? Just get it right here. There are some things that might be mentioning that probably it's not clear to you yet that I'm still going to talk about. Like I've been talking about elements. I'm still going to talk about what makes a full element, what is a tag and all that, right? But here we are just talking about the structure, and I want you to actually see into this right from the get-go. So the link takes some attributes, right? I'm still going to also talk about attributes, but if you can pick it now, fine. So we have link. So the attribute here is I'm just going to say rel. So that's the relationship now. It stays style sheet. Style sheet. So this is actually whenever you are using the link element, it's used to link to an external CSS file, right? So that's what I'm saying, style sheet. CSS files are style sheet, right? They are used for styling our pages. So at times you have the style sheet in another location and you just want to link to it right from here. So that every elements here can also make use of that style sheet. So here is where you point to the location, another attribute, which is src equal to, here's where you say, okay, this is the location, this is the attribute name, this is the attribute value. Here, this is the attribute name, which is rel attribute value. So here, the attribute value here is going to be the location. I don't have any style sheet yet. So this is going to point to the location of the CSS file, right? So I'm still going to show you that proper, but that's just what the link is used for. Then you can also, in the X section, you can also link to external scripts, right? So where you have scripts, you can have scripts here. Yeah. So in the script here, you must provide some attribute for this to work. Just typing script here will not work, right? You must provide a source, right, of the script. So here you now point to the script source. So eventually, this is going to be a path that points to where the script is located, right? So usually you also have another attribute here called defer, which is saying that this page should not be loaded until the document is ready. So I will still talk about that and why we need the script not to be loaded until the document is actually ready. So these are the basic things that you have when it comes to the H section of an HTML document. But there is something that there are other metadata, other extra information that are not captured by title, link, and script. So usually that is captured by the meta element. So you will hear of meta element, right? So these meta elements allow you to actually, is very flexible and versatile. So you can provide different extra information, right, to the document. So for instance, you have we can say meta name, And this is going to be, all these are attributes on these elements, right? You can see now, all these are, but when I'm talking about attributes, it will be clearer. So name here is the attribute name. Meta here, I just want it to be viewport. So this is actually for responsive design, right? And extra information for responsive design. So viewport, and usually you will have the contents. You have the content, and here I can just say width, right, equals to device device width. So I will tell you what this is doing eventually, and then we can say initial scale equal. So we can just say initial scale of 1.0. So this is for responsive design actually. And what it's just saying is that the content, the document content, right, should adjust, right, to the weight of the device. So, and that is very important when it comes to responsive design. You want the content to adjust to the device weight and not the other way around. So we also have some other meta data that can be set using the meta element. So we have we can also have name of here. Maybe I want to set the author of this document, right? You can say author. Then here we can just say author, then description. Just make sure that you are also doing what I'm doing, right? Because that's the best way to learn. So author, you can have contents, and this is going to be the name of the author. Let's say Olaoluwa, right? So let's say that is the author. You can put your name there. Then these are just for SEO now. Then you also have, okay, this one is also for SEO, meta. Then we can have name here. So this will be the description. So this will be the, can just say description. Then content. So this is going to be the description of the page. The description of the page. Okay, let's just put something that we are currently working on. So let's just say introduction to HTML5. So that is the description of this page. So usually the search engine will make use of this to describe this document. So there are other informations that can be captured. For instance, although these days keywords are no longer important like we do have it before. So you can have keywords here also. So you see now that metadata is actually to capture extra data that are not captured by title, link, and script. We have keywords. You can put keywords here. Let's say HTML is a keyword, CSS, right? Let's say JS for JavaScript. Probably that's the keywords you want to capture, right? Other thing that we have in the S section is the style element. So the style element actually allows us to provide a styling for this page on this document, right, internally, right? So we are still going to talk about styling and different ways to style, right? But just be aware of these attributes. And don't forget that none of this will show in the S section. And if I go back, none of this will show in the browser. If I come back here, you see that still there is nothing here, but those informations are already supplied to the browser, right? And in one way or the other, they are going to influence the behavior of the documents, right? By the time we display responsiveness and all that information that is search engine is capturing and all that. So now away from that, okay, before I move to the body section, right? Let me see. So I think we are clear on this now, the head and the body, and we've seen some elements that goes into the head, and we know what the head is meant for, right? And if you already captured that already, we also already know some of the elements that goes to the head and what they are actually used for. So the head section, I've talked about this already. You have the title, link to external style sheets and scripts, and some other metadata on and the meta element to provide extra metadata that these that are mentioned do not capture, right? So this is just an overview of what I just talked about in screenshot here, right? Okay, I missed out this, which is the character set. So let me quickly talk about that and what it is meant for, right? The meta, so char set. So char set allows you actually to set the allowed characters, right, on this page. So we have different languages in the world, and each language, right, has its allowed character. So what you just do here is that this particular place allows you to set allowed characters on this document. So I can set it to UTF-8. So setting to UTF-8, UTF-8 is actually the most popular, and it captures almost all characters in uh, all languages that we have in the world, right? So this just allows you to safely say, okay, allow for all characters that are supported in all languages in the world. So that's what you are trying to do here with set UTF-8, right? It's important that's why I'm taking my time to explain this, that you have proper understanding of what this is all about. Many delve into these things without a proper understanding of these things, right? So that's it with that part. Let's see. Okay, now the importance of the S section, very important. Still on the head, the importance of the S section. I've talked about this SEO. So improved visibility in the search engine. So when you set the meta data, like the viewport that I spoke about, this one, the viewport, right? The UTF-8, UTF-8, even the description. This just have a way of improving the SEO, right? Visibility, right? Also, when it comes to user experience, we have some of the meta tags that works for responsive design, like this one, right? Works for responsive design. So that just ensures that even the style sheet too, you're going to pick up styles and apply to the document. It just ensures that the page is responsive and thus improving user experience. In terms of performance too, so linking CSS files, and also, of course, we link CSS files to an external style, right? Which usually CSS files are loaded quickly in the head section. So that makes the document to load faster. Also, the defer keyword is used, just like I mentioned, on scripts, right? So when you are running a document with heavy scripts, it can slow the load time of that particular document, right? So when you use defer, it means that don't load the scripts until the document is ready, right? This kind of ensure that things are loaded quickly and efficiently. So understanding and correctly utilizing the S section is crucial for creating well-optimized, accessible, and performant web pages. These things are very important, right? There's a saying that as you lay your bed, so you lie on it. So if this is the building block of whatever you are doing, if you don't get it right here, you're also going to struggle with other things, and you might have complaints from your users and those you are building applications for, right? So that's it. Now we move to the body section or side of things. That is where we handle, okay, let me do it from here. The body element contains the actual content of the HTML document, such as text, images, um, links, and other elements, right? So, and these are going to be, we are not just going to be dumping elements. This is even why we are stressing proper understanding of these things. We are not just going to be dumping documents here. We are not just going to be dumping elements here. Oh, image, and you just dump it, right? You are going to need to be aware of the appropriate elements, right, to wrap that content with. So if I want to display image, there's an appropriate HTML element, right, to actually display image. If I want to display paragraph, there is an appropriate HTML element to display paragraph. If I want headings, titles, there's an appropriate element to use. So if you don't understand this, you will just use any, and usually the browser will not throw error at this point, right? But you will not be communicating well with the browser. So the interpretation will not be there. So you want to be sure that in learning this HTML, you learn you focus, you pay attention to the appropriate element, right, that is meant to wrap each content that you'll be working with. For instance, I want a paragraph element. The elements, I want a paragraph, and I want a paragraph displayed on the document. The appropriate element to use is the P, which the P tag, right? This is a tag. This is a tag, the P tag. So it becomes an element when you have the closing, the opening, the closing, and the content. So this is the opening tag, this is the closing tag, and the content goes in here, right? So I'll just generate a random text here by saying lorem. So I can just say lorem. Okay, you can see that I'm having this emit abbreviation is due to the plugin that I'm using, right? So if you are just starting to, you may not have that. So I'm showing two now. I've shown live server. Now I'm going to be introducing you to emit, right? Just search for emit. So it's an auto completion plugin, emit live. I've installed this already by Yuri. So make sure that you also install it. Once you have installed it, if it's not working immediately, close the VS Code and open it again, right? So here you'll be able to just say lorem. So just say I want to create 20 lines of words. So lorem 20, and you have that. So that's the shortcut, right? Lorem 20. So that's a shortcut. And I have a formatter set up already. I will also show you how to ensure that things are well formatted, right? Moving forward. But I don't want to dwell on that now. So you can see that we have this paragraph. And if I go back to the page, don't forget what I've said. Whatever is in the body will be visible, right, on the page. So if I come here, can you see I have my paragraph on the page? So it's totally different from what we have in the Edge session that we not show. Right. So if I want, let's just say some basic elements again. Let's say I want image, which is img. That's the right element. Image does not have a closing tag, right? So image is self-closing. You can see this is self-closing. I do not have something like this and then this. I'm not saying image. No, image is a self-closing tag. So I will still talk about this when I start talking about elements properly, right? So image, you are not going to do it this way, right? Paragraph, okay. Paragraph is full element, not self-closing. Full element in the sense that you have the opening tag, you have the content, this is the content, then you have the closing tag, right? So we'll still talk about attributes that will go into the opening tag somewhere. So here we have the element, we have the image element, right? Which is self-closing. You can either do it this way or just do it like this, right? So here you are not going to provide something because just putting image here will not do anything. And the best way to learn is that as you are doing it to visualize it, there's a way it sends message to your brain, right? And right from the start, you also want to start thinking like a programmer. If you don't get into that, you will not build that habit, right? So you have to start doing things and working like a programmer. And that's part of it, being smart. Okay, there's an image element here. Doing just that, does it change anything? No, it does not change anything. Next time you will not miss it, right? You know that there's an important attribute that makes it work, and that is the source attribute. So attributes are just extra information, right, on the element, on the opening tag of an element. It actually most times it's add an extra feature, right, to that particular element. For instance, now when I rendered the image element without anything, you say that nothing is shown, but it requires that I supply the source attribute. And the way you write attribute is the source name, the attribute name and the value. So the value here is going to point to where the image is located. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to pick a random image, right? Let's just say food image, food image. So let me just see if I can copy something quickly. Okay. Copy image link. So usually I should be able to, eventually I will show you how to save to a local file, right? And still point to it conveniently. So here we have images. So let's see that this will show. Okay, so you can see that we have that image showing here already. So, but the thing is not that we are showing the image, is that we are using the appropriate elements to actually do that. We have many elements. So the focus here is not to actually teach all the elements, right? The focus here is to teach the syntax and be aware of what the elements should be and how it should work. Some of them will require special attributes. For instance, if I want to link to Facebook or to link to another page, we use the anchor elements, right? This anchor element takes the opening tag, this is a full element, the opening tag, the closing tag. Let's say the content is just going to be Facebook, right? So if I go here, I'm just going to see a text, but it's not clickable. But this is supposed to be a link that when I click, it takes me to Facebook, right? So what you can do here is set the attributes on it. That's why you also have to pay attention to the attribute. So the attribute here is href, right? And the value is whatever you want to link to. So let's say I'm linking to Facebook, facebook.com. So this is going to be http facebook.com. So let's say we have that. That attribute alone should change the behavior of that link, right? And you can see that I have this is a style default from the browser, right? So it takes that blue shape and the underline. When I click on it, it takes me to Facebook. So there's another attribute that if you don't want it to override the current page you are on, right? You actually supply another attribute here. And don't forget, I've been talking about attributes. The attribute is supplied to the opening tag of the element, of the opening tag of the element, right? So as you will see here. So, and you can have more, one or more, you can have more than one attribute, right, on a particular element, as long as you know what exactly that attribute is meant to do. So here I can say underscore, I can say, so underscore blank, right? So you set underscore blank as your target. So this will ensure that when you click on the link, it actually opens up a new page for you. So if I say target now, at times you forget the name of this attribute. You can click on if you're on Windows, Control, then Tab, Control, then Space, Control Space, right? It's going to give you suggestions as to what is available. And if you scroll to here, you'll see the attributes that are applicable. So this is what I'm looking for, target, right? And you can see the possible values. So I want blank. So this will ensure that once you click on this page, it takes you, it does not override this, it just opened a new page, right? I see have this and I have this opened, right? So that's it with that. We are still going to talk about attributes in detail, but this already you can even pick what we are going to talk about here already, right? Let me be sure that I'm still on track as to what we are talking about. That's the body section, and you have seen some HTML that I supplied to the body section and how they look on the page. So what you just need now is, okay, probably when I get there, I will talk about the HTML syntax, right? So HTML uses a tag-based syntax to define elements, and that's what I've been talking about. So this is the tag, right? This is a tag. So the name of the element just goes in there, and you can see that that's what I've been doing. This is the paragraph tag. So the only thing that is different is I place P in there. So it's the same thing for image. The tag was there. I place img there. So that's the syntax. You just apply the tag and you put this, you supply this and you put the name, whether it's paragraph, whether it's heading 1, whether it's heading, that's it. So that's the tag. So what a complete element will now be the opening, the closing, and the content, right? That's what makes the element. So here, tags are enclosed in angle brackets, and most have opening and closing tags to encapsulate content. Some tags like image for images are self-closing, and I think I already explained that and why the image tag should be self-closing. So HTML makeup, we have the opening and closing tag. I've shown that example already in terms of the paragraph that we have here, right? We also have attributes, and I've talked about attributes and showed you some attributes also. Yeah, examples of attribute. Meta here, character set here is an attribute. right? And this is the attribute name, this is the value. It's the same thing, and it goes to the opening tag, right? This is also an attribute, the name, the viewport is the value. This is also an attribute. So an element can have more than one attribute, right? So this is also an attribute. So you need to know what these attributes are doing. So if you've forgotten the explanation, my explanation regarding the attributes and what they do, you can also rewatch the video to capture that, right? And if this is too fast for you, you can also slow it down. So you can see that we have many attributes here that you need to pay attention to and know what they are doing. Don't try to do everything once, just take it one step at a time, right? You can also see image here, the source attribute. Some of these attributes, if they are not there, the elements will not work as it should. For instance, the image will not display if the source attribute is not there. The anchor element will not work as it should, right? If the href is not there, the target attribute also gives an extra behavior that allows the page document to be opened or the link to be opened on the new page, right? So these things are very, very, very important. But here already, if you already get what I've explained, you are on the right, on the right track. Self-closing tags, I've talked about that. Image is an example of self-closing tag. We have many other self-closing tags that you will see. So one tag that I didn't add here is, apart from the source tag, source attributes, you can also provide the alternative text attribute, meaning that if for whatever reason the browser cannot display this image, there's a fallback, right? So you can just say fallback text. So there's a fallback text here. So usually this will be whatever the image is all about, right? So you can just put Facebook there if this image is actually a Facebook image and all that. So this is for this is part of what we are talking about when we say user experience, right? It will be bad if the image is just there and it shows it's broken. Instead of showing a broken image, right? Let's have a fallback text that explains what should be there. And that's also useful for screen recording, right? Usually for those who have visual impairment and all that, that will find that information very useful. So, okay, what I also need to capture before we wrap up this is the comments, right? So whenever you are working with documents like this, you want to have comments, usually to provide structure, explanation as to what is going on, take some notes, right? So comments are actually not readable. So you can see the syntax for comments here. So if you don't want to type it, or you can just say you can type control and forward slash at the same time, and you get the snippet. That is after you have installed the Emit plugin, right? And it's working. But if you want to type it all yourself, so this is it. You can see that. You can just say less than sign, then then your comment goes in there. So whatever you write here, right, it's not going to show in the browser. If I come back and you see that, you will never see that, right? So it's just for you, probably for other. It's very useful when you're working in a large project and others can also come in and understand what you are doing at that point in time, right? So that's what comments are meant for. And this is actually a multi-line comments, right? So I can have multiple line comments in here and everything will still work. You can write stuff here. So that's it about comments. They are not visible on the web page, like I've said, and are used for adding notes to code. So once you are done, and this is what we'll be moving towards in the next section, right? Where we now begin to delve into different HTML elements that are available to us so that we can have enough in our hands to start building what we'd like to build, right? And don't forget that in the next section, like I mentioned, we'll be working on the project that I mentioned earlier. Let me just try to demo that again quickly. Okay, it's here. Okay, just open this with the live server. So this is going to be our first task. I just want us to have enough enough concepts and understanding before we delve into that, right? Okay, I think I already opened it. Okay, just opened. So you can see this is what I'm talking about. So we are going to write the HTML for this and display this properly and also style this. So that will be our first baby step into for the first module, right? That we've been working on. So that's it with this particular section. If you like what you have seen, right, do click on the subscribe button, right? Turn on your notification and also like the video. Also, I would like to hear from you. You can also drop comments in the comment section, right? So that's it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next section.